one had knocked on his door in years, until a little girl stood in the snow and said, "My mama fell." The first knock came soft, like it didn't want to be heard. Eli Mercer didn't move. Storm like this, it swallowed sound, bent it, twisted it. Could have been anything. Loose wood, a branch hitting the door, the wind playing tricks. Then it came again, same rhythm, same spacing, too precise. Eli's eye shifted toward the door. No one came up this ridge in winter. No one climbed that road after dark. Not unless they were lost or dying. The third knock came. That one settled in his chest. Eli stood, slow, reluctant. He reached for the lantern, stopped. The house stayed dark for a reason, because nothing inside it needed light anymore. But the knocking, that didn't belong to the past. He struck the match. The flame flickered, then caught. Light touched the walls, dust, empty space, things left untouched too long. Eli walked to the door, hand resting on the latch. For a moment, he almost walked away. Let the storm take care of it, whatever it was. But something held him there, something he hadn't listened to in years. He opened the door. Snow rushed inside, cold biting through the room. And there she was, a little girl, standing in the storm. No more than 8, coat too thin, hair frozen at the edges. But she wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. She just looked at him, steady. "My mama fell." Her voice barely carried over the wind, but he heard it, every word. Eli didn't answer right away, because for a second, he forgot how to. "My mama fell," she repeated. "She can't get up." No panic, no pleading, just truth. Eli stepped aside, the lantern light spilling out into the storm. "Where?" The girl turned immediately, didn't check if he would follow, like she already knew he would. Eli grabbed his coat, didn't think, didn't question, just moved. The storm hit harder outside, snow cutting across his face, blinding. The girl walked ahead, small against the white, never once looking back. They found her in the drift, half buried, a woman curled into the snow. One hand frozen against the ground, like she had tried to hold on. Eli dropped to his knees, brushed the snow from her face. Cold. Too cold. But alive. Barely. "She was walking," the girl said quietly behind him. "Then she just fell." Eli looked at the woman, then at the girl. "How long?" She shook her head. "I don't know." That meant too long. Way too long. Eli slid his arms under the woman, lifted her. She weighed almost nothing. Or maybe he had forgotten what it felt like to carry someone. "Stay close." The girl nodded once, and they turned back, toward the only light left on that hill. The lantern burned in the doorway, fighting the storm. And for the first time in years, Eli Mercer didn't walk into that house alone. He didn't know it yet, but everything that had died in that place was about to come back to life. The storm stayed outside, but the cold came in with them. Eli kicked the door closed, dropped the bar into place. For a second, he just stood there. Snow melting off his coat, water pooling on the floor. Then he moved. By the fire. He laid the woman down near the hearth. The girl was already there, clearing space, pulling wood closer. She didn't wait for instructions, didn't freeze. She knew what needed to be done. Eli fed the fire. Flames climbed, slow at first, then stronger. Light filled the room. The woman's face came into view, pale, lips almost blue, her breathing thin, uneven. Eli reached out, pressed his hand to her neck, still there, barely. "She's cold," the girl whispered. "I know." He pulled off his coat, wrapped it around the woman, then reached for blankets, old ones, folded, unused until now. "Help me." The girl nodded, moved closer. Together, they lifted her slightly, tucked the blankets underneath, around, over, like they were trying to hold warmth in place. "What's her name?" "Rose. I'm Mara." Eli nodded once. Eli. No more introductions. They didn't need them. Time moved strangely after that, measured in breaths, not minutes. Rose stirred once, a weak movement. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Eli grabbed a cup, melted snow near the fire, cooled it slightly, then touched it to her lips. Slow. A drop, then another. She swallowed, barely, but it was enough. "She's waking," Mara said quietly. "Not yet. Not enough." Eli leaned back slightly, eyes never leaving Rose. He had seen this before. Too cold, too long. Sometimes they came back. Sometimes they didn't. He pushed the thought away. Not this time. The fire grew stronger. The room changed with it. Shadows pulled back. Corners softened. The house shifted, like it remembered what it was built for. Mara sat beside her mother, small hands gripping the blanket, watching everything. Not scared, just waiting. "Does she die?" she asked quietly. Eli didn't answer right away, because he had once been asked that question in this same room, years ago. He swallowed. "No. Not tonight." Mara nodded, like that was enough, like she believed him. That made it harder. Rose stirred again, stronger this time. Her brow tightened, a faint sound escaping her throat. Eli leaned closer. "Easy. You're inside." Her eyes flickered open, unfocused, searching. Then they found Mara. Relief, instant. "Mara, I'm here. I didn't leave." Rose tried to move, but pain caught her, sharp. Eli's hand steadied her shoulder. "Don't. You'll make it worse." She looked at him then, really looked. Confusion, fear, understanding. "You brought us in." He nodded once. "Why?" The question wasn't accusing, it was honest. Eli didn't answer, because he didn't know how to explain something he hadn't meant to do. Instead, he stood, moved to the fire, kept it burning. That was answer enough. The storm raged on outside, but inside, something had changed. There was breath, movement, voices, life. Eli stood in the glow of the fire, watching them. Two strangers, brought in by the storm, now filling a space that had been empty too long. And for the first time in years, the silence in that house didn't feel permanent. The storm didn't stop, but it moved farther away. Inside, the house held. Barely. Rose slept in short breaths, not deep, not steady. Each inhale a little too sharp, each exhale a little too slow. Eli stayed near the fire, didn't sit, didn't rest, just watched. Mara hadn't moved far from her mother, curled beside her, one hand still gripping the blanket, like letting go might change something. "You don't sleep?" she asked quietly. Eli shook his head. "Not much." Mara studied him, not like a child, like she was trying to understand something. "You live here alone?" Eli didn't answer right away. The question hung in the room, heavy. "I used to." That wasn't the full answer, but it was enough. Mara nodded slowly. "Before?" Eli's eyes moved to the far wall. There, barely visible in the dim light, was a small shelf, dust-covered, untouched. Something rested there, a folded cloth, a small carved toy. He looked at it like it didn't belong to him anymore. "My wife," he said finally. "She got sick." The words were quiet, flat. "She was carrying our child." Mara didn't interrupt, didn't move. She didn't make it. The fire cracked softly. Neither did the baby. That settled into the room, heavy, still. Mara looked down. "I'm sorry." Eli nodded once. That was all he needed, or all he would allow. Rose shifted, a sharp breath pulling her awake. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach. Eli noticed immediately. "What is it?" Rose didn't answer right away, just breathed through it, tight, controlled. Then another wave hit, stronger. Mara leaned closer. "Mama?" Rose's eyes closed, her jaw tightened. "It's time." The words barely came out. Eli froze, just for a second. The room shifted again. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was something else. "You're sure?" Rose nodded weakly. "It started before we left. I thought I could make it." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Eli turned toward the window, storm still moving through the ridge, not as strong, but not gone. "How far?" "Town. Maybe an hour. If the road holds." Eli's jaw tightened. He knew that road. Knew what it looked like in weather like this. Barely a road at all. "You need a midwife." Rose nodded again. "I know." Another contraction hit, stronger. Her hand gripped the blanket tight. Mara reached for her. "I'm here." Eli looked at them both, small, fragile, and suddenly that room felt too familiar, too close to something he had already lost. Not again. He grabbed his coat, pulled it on fast. "Stay with her." Mara nodded immediately. Eli moved to the door, hand on the latch, paused just for a second, because he knew what waited outside. Cold, dark, risk, and something else, a memory of a night he didn't get there in time. He pushed it down hard. Not tonight. He opened the door. Cold hit him again, sharp, but this time he stepped into it without hesitation. Behind him, a woman in pain, a child holding on, and a house that had already seen too much loss. He wasn't letting it happen again. The cold hit harder this time, like it remembered him. Eli pulled himself into the saddle. The horse shifted beneath him, uneasy. It didn't want to ride into that wind. Neither did he. But he pushed forward anyway. The trail had almost disappeared. Snow drifted across it, erasing everything. No clear path, no markers, just instinct and memory. He leaned low against the horse, shielding his face, guiding more than steering, because out here, control was an illusion. You just survived. The wind cut sideways, sharp enough to sting the eyes. Eli didn't slow. He had already lost once. He wasn't losing again. Inside the cabin, Rose cried out, this time louder. Mara flinched, but didn't move away. I'm here. I'm right here. Her voice trembled just enough. Rose gripped her hand tighter. It's too soon. I can't. You can. Mara said it like she believed it, like someone had once said it to her. Rose shook her head weakly. There's no one here. Mara didn't answer that, because she knew there was supposed to be. Another contraction hit, harder. The room tightened with it. The cabin felt smaller now, hotter, closer. And the past felt too close, too familiar. Eli rode harder. The outline of the town finally broke through the storm, faint, distant. Lights. He pushed the horse faster. Almost there. Almost. The door slammed open. Eli didn't knock this time. Need help! The room inside the small house turned. A woman stepped forward, older, steady. What kind of help? Birth. Now. She didn't hesitate. Get inside. Minutes blurred. Blankets, supplies, voices overlapping. Then they rode back. Faster. Harder. Eli barely felt the cold anymore. Just the pull of time, tightening. Inside the cabin, Rose cried out again. This one, different. Mara held on tighter. You said we'd be okay. I know. I know. Rose whispered, more to herself than anyone else. The door burst open. In, along with Eli and the woman behind him. Move. The midwife stepped forward immediately, hands already working. Good girl, stay with me. Eli stepped back, out of the way, but not far. He couldn't. He wouldn't. Time changed again, measured in breaths, cries, commands. Push. Again. The room filled with it. Pain, fear, life. Eli stood near the wall, hands clenched, watching, helpless, just like before. But this time, he hadn't been too late. Almost there. Don't stop now. Rose screamed, raw, final. Then, silence. 1 second. 2. Then, sharp, small, alive. The sound cut through everything. Rose collapsed back, exhausted. Mara froze, eyes wide. Then, she smiled. A real one. The midwife wrapped the child, carefully, gently, then placed him in Rose's arms. There you go. Rose looked down, tears already forming. He's here. Eli didn't move. Not at first. Because for a moment, he couldn't. The room blurred, just slightly, then cleared. This wasn't the past. This wasn't loss. This was something else. Something he hadn't seen in years. Life. And for the first time, he didn't feel like he was watching it disappear. The storm passed, like it had never been there. Morning came quiet. Too quiet. Snow lay untouched across the ridge, but inside, the house was different. There was warmth, movement, breath, life. Eli stood near the window, watching the light settle across the land. He hadn't slept. Didn't need to. Behind him, a small sound. He turned. Rose sat propped against the bed, pale, exhausted, but alive. Mara leaned close beside her, eyes fixed on the bundle in Rose's arms. He's small. He's strong, Rose answered. Eli stepped closer, slow, careful, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to be there. Mara looked up at him. You helped. Eli shook his head slightly. I just rode. That's helping. She said it simply, like it didn't need to be argued. Eli looked at the child. Tiny, wrapped tight, breathing steady. Something shifted in his chest. Not pain, not this time. Something quieter. Something returning. By afternoon, word had spread. People rode past the ridge, slower than usual, looking, watching. Some stopped at a distance, curious, but none came close, not after what they had heard. A child born in that house, where nothing had lived in years. By evening, the sheriff came. Jonah, older, measured. He stepped inside, hat in hand, looked around, at the fire, at the blankets, at the people. You lit the place again. Eli didn't answer. Jonah nodded slowly. About time. His eyes moved to Rose, to the child, then to Eli. I heard what happened. Eli leaned against the wall slightly. Didn't plan it. Most things worth something aren't planned, Jonah said. Silence settled. Not heavy, not tense, just understood. Jonah placed something on the table, a small folded paper. Your land. No one's claiming it anymore. Eli looked at it, didn't move to pick it up, like it didn't matter the same way anymore. Good, he said quietly. Jonah watched him, then nodded once, and left. The house grew quieter again that night, but not empty. Never empty. Mara sat near the fire, drawing shapes in the dust. Not letters, not yet. Just something of her own. Eli stepped outside. The cold met him, but it didn't bite the same way. He stood on the ridge, looking out. For years, that land had felt like the end of something, a place people stopped, not stayed. Now, it felt different, like something had begun there, something he hadn't expected to live through. Behind him, the faint cry of the baby, Mara's quiet voice, Rose shifting in bed. Eli turned back, watched the light spill through the window. He had kept that house dark for a long time, because he thought nothing inside it deserved to stay. He was wrong. Mara stepped into the doorway, wrapped in a blanket too big for her. She looked up at him. You coming back in? Eli held her gaze. For a second, he saw something there. Trust. Something he hadn't been given in years. I will. Just not yet. Mara stepped closer. He's mine, you know. I'll take care of him. Eli nodded once. I know. She hesitated, then added, and you're ours. That landed deeper than anything else. Eli didn't answer right away, because he didn't know how to, not with words. So instead, he reached out, rested his hand gently on her shoulder. That was enough, for both of them. Later that night, the lantern stayed lit, not by accident, not by habit, by choice. And on that hill, in a house that had once held nothing but silence, there was light again. Not because the past had changed, but because something new had finally taken its place.